Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. The Wolf She Never Knew. Episode 11. Chapter 76. I was feeling depressed. I looked over at Everest as he was walking out of the room and talking with the doctor. The door closed as I listened to them both discussing my treatment at home, walking away from my room. He was ready to have me back home and, honestly, I was ready to be back home, in my own bed, in our room. The doctor said that I was practically fully healed but still needed rest, seeing how my beast was still weak. She didn't talk much to me as she was still mourning the loss of our pup. I felt my eyes sting with tears as my hand rested on where our pup should be growing inside of me. I sighed and laid back, pulling the blankets over me. I buried my face in my pillows, trying to stifle a sob without success. I cried, really cried, hard, big tears streaming down my face and soon my pillow was soaked. Then I became angry, more angry than I have ever allowed myself to be. My precious pup's life was taken away from me. Everest walked into the room and rushed to my side of the bed. He was worried, I knew that much. I did not make an effort to move to look at him. I didn't want him to see me like this, weak and struggling. "Are you okay?" When I did not answer him, he pulled the blanket back away from my face. "Oh, my love." He laid down on the bed next to me and held my body close to him. He didn't say anything to me, just held me. I soon drifted off to sleep in his arms. I was in such a deep sleep I did not feel him move away from me and leave the room. I woke up a few hours later to the smell of food filling the room. I sat up in bed and looked at Everest who was getting everything ready on the tray. "Hi," I said softly, and he looked over to me with his most handsome smile. "Hi, my love. Are you hungry?" He motioned to the food he was in the process of plating. "I am. What are we eating?" I asked and scooted to a more comfortable position. I went to get some fajitas with chicken, steak, shrimp, and chorizo, chips and salsa with queso. I also have rice and beans along with all the fixings for making your burritos. I didn't know if you would like to have flour or corn tortillas, so I had them put both in there. He smiled at me. My mouth was watering as he talked and I looked at all the food. My stomach growled and I could not wait to start digging in. Hospital food absolutely sucked and they had me on a strict diet to help with healing and help Charlotte regain her strength slowly. What was supposed to be only one meal of broth and other crap turned into a few days. We ate the food together and it was glorious. I ate until I was full and watched him clear everything from the small rolling tray table. "What is the plan?" I watched as he settled in the bed next to me. "The plan to get you outta here." He looked over at me. "Yes, that, and what are we going to do about Dexter?" I sighed. "You should be released tomorrow. Free to go home. You cannot, however, do too much. Your Leakin still needs more time," he told me. "Can I train in my human form? My magic?" My brow rose to look at him. "Well, I assume you can as long as you don't force a shift." He shrugged his shoulders some. "I will, of course, need to get clarification." "Okay." I dropped it as he turned on the television in the room. "We would deal with Dexter when we found him." "You have a lot on your mind," he commented. "Yes, I said simply. I was thinking. He started and looked down at me. We need to get Trevor's brothers back here. I believe he misses them terribly because of the conversation we had a few days ago. So I extended an invitation for them to join us. I sat up in bed and looked at him. You did? He nodded his head. I did. They accepted and will be here in 2 days. If you do not mind, I would like to extend a special invitation for his brothers to live here, with Trevor, with us. He moved to get a better look at me. Really? Oh, babe, I do believe Trevor will be so very happy with that idea and plan. I smiled up at him. I moved to lean against him. He held me close as we watched a movie together. I zoned a lot of the movie out as so many things were running through my mind. I wanted them here, I wished they would be able to meet my pup, I wanted to run and hunt Dexter down and murder him myself. I wanted my revenge and I wanted it now. I wanted to inflict so much pain on him, then again I just wanted him dead. Everest stood and excused himself from the room. His phone was ringing and I assumed it was news of some kind. I figured this was a sign, better than any. I stood up, got out of bed and began to get myself ready. It was time. I was completely over. It will be ending soon. If anyone gets in my way, I will end them. No one will be messing with official business. What are you doing? Charlotte asked curiously. Leaving. I told her. Leaving? Without our mate? She was frowning at me, I could tell. No, he can come with me but I am leaving. I told her again. Where are we going? She moved to watch out of my eyes. Getting our revenge. I pulled my shirt over my head and pulled my hair up into a messy bun. I looked rough, but it didn't matter. Nothing mattered until I found the bastard. You know Everest is not going to let you do this alone, or at all really. She told me. I would like to see him stop me. Go rest, I have a feeling I am going to need you. What about the boys? They will be here in a few days. She protested. We will have to postpone their visit. This needs to be handled first. I will not have any more of my loved ones killed or injured because of him. I told her, tears streaming down my face now, my breathing became quicker. No. We are not ready. You are going off pure emotion right now. You are not okay. I am not okay. This is not okay. She sobbed. I have to. I have to. I pleaded with her as I leaned against the wall. We can't, Avalynn. We are not ready. Please, she begged. What are you doing? Everest walked back into the room looking at me. I am leaving. I wiped my face and stood up straight. What do you mean you are leaving? He frowned. I am going to kill him or die trying. I looked up at him with all seriousness. Avalynn, please, you need to be at your best. He took a step closer to me. I am just fine. I will be fine. You can come with me. I told him. You are not going anywhere. He growled and I growled back at him. He is loose. Running rampant. Probably murdering others. I said through gritted teeth. Do you have a death wish? He asked me. No. I said honestly. Then stay. We will get him soon enough. He tried pleading with me again. Please do not make me use my aura on you. I crossed my arms like a spoiled child throwing a temper tantrum. Where are Miranda and Brent? I wish to speak with them. That is the thing I was coming back in to tell you. They left a few hours ago. They are getting ready to cross the border into the Southern Territory. They need to be back in their kingdom. Especially if Dexter is on the run. He needs to be there for his people. Well. I moved away from him and walked to the door. Avalynn. Stop. Where are you going? He followed after me. I am going for a walk through the hallways. I need to be able to think. Please. I said with tears in my eyes. I felt so lost, so conflicted. So much I wanted to do. I will be here waiting for you. Please do not leave the hospital. He moved away and sat back in his chair. I walked out of the room and roamed through the halls. I went from floor to floor and I felt Charlotte whimper. I pushed her to the back of my mind and closed her off. I felt bad enough. I knew I had hurt him. I didn't mean to hurt him, I just felt so much emotion and sadness and smothered. I hate that I feel this way, something is wrong with me. He has been nothing but great during this entire process and this is how I repay him? I sighed as I heard the soft sounds of cries. I walked up to a large window and looked into it. Newborn babies were in their little beds all swaddled up. I rested my forehead against the glass as I watched them all. How very blessed their parents are to have these beautiful babies in their lives. I must have been there for an hour. People passed by me but no one said anything to me. No one bothered me, until Everest found me. He approached me and rested his hands on my shoulders. I leaned back to him, his touch was so comforting. It was what I needed all along in reality. I am sorry. I started to apologize to him. SHHH. It is okay. You are dealing with a lot. He kissed the top of my head. So are you though, it was. He cut me off again. Yes, I am, but you have to live with it more than I. You are the one who was carrying our pup, living with our pup. I just simply helped in the making process. Am I saddened at our loss? Absolutely, without a doubt in the world. Am I more sad having to watch you struggle with the loss and battling the millions of emotions and process everything? 1,000,000%. He turned me around in his arms and tilted my chin up to look at him. Avalynn, I love you and I want you to know that I am here for you. I am here for you to vent, cry, scream, talk, and just here for whatever you may need. I am here for you always. You are never alone. He kissed my mouth softly. Now come in, let's get you back into bed. He took my hand and led me away from all of the babies. Wait. I stopped walking, causing him to turn around and look down at me in confusion. I want to adopt them, I told him. What? Who? He said, looking back at the 20 or more babies in the window behind me, clearly thinking I had completely lost my mind. Like we would be able to take on 20 freaking babies. I rolled my eyes at the thought. Trevor. His brothers. All 3 of them. I told him and he smiled. He didn't say anything, not yes, not no either, as we walked back into my hospital room. Oh, while you were on your walk, the doctor came in to see you but you were gone. He looked down at me. Oh yeah? What did he have to say? I asked and he shrugged. He said that you would be able to leave in the morning. You are being discharged at 8 in the morning. Everest smiled and my brows shot up. Finally. I can sleep in our bed, I said happily. We walked back into my hospital room. I was happy that I would be getting out of here soon. Maybe then I could get back to some kind of normal life. The next few days. Time seemed to pass by slowly these last few days. I was healed and felt much better. Strength-wise, the doctor approved everything to resume as normal except for shifting. Inside, I still felt like a part of me was missing. I guess that was true though. I wrapped a robe around my body and walked outside to our private balcony. The cool air greeted me as the wind blew, caressing my skin and sending a shiver down my spine. Goosebumps traveled across my arm as I sat down on the little chair. I listened to the birds singing their morning songs as my eyes closed, leaning my head back against the brick wall. I heard the door open and close as Everest walked outside. Good morning, my love. Everything okay? He asked softly, sleep still hanging in his voice. As well as it should be. I opened my eyes and looked up at him. He smiled down at me. Would you like to shower with me? Before they arrive? When are we expecting them to arrive? I let a yawn escape as I talked. They said that they should be here around 11 or somewhere around there. He offered his hand to help me up. I took his hand and allowed him to lead me into the shower. He untied my robe, kissed me softly on the mouth, sliding the robe off of my shoulders. The robe hit the ground and pooled at my feet, stepping out of it and away from the robe as he pulled me into the already running shower. You had this going already? I smiled at him. I was going to take one, regardless if you wanted to join me or not. He grinned and winked at me. He lathered up some soap and began running his hands along my shoulders, rubbing gentle yet firm circles with his thumbs against my skin. His hands moved down along my back slowly, massaging them gently as he went down. His hands flattened against my bottom, gripping it in his hands. An audible mmm. Sound of approval was heard and a smile crossed my face. His hands traveled back up my back, to my shoulders and along my collarbone. He laid me down gently and moved on top of me. Using the strength of my legs, I flipped us, which brought me to be on top of him. He had a surprised look on his face and I grinned down at him. Let me love you. I told him when I felt him tense up, thinking he was about to flip me back to lie back on the bed. It was quiet and the only thing that could be heard was our breathing and the sound of his heartbeat. His free hand wrapped around me and moved up and down against my skin slowly. I closed my eyes and lay with him for a little while. He moved and kissed the top of my head. We should get cleaned up before they arrive. Okay. I smiled and lifted my head to look down at him. He was smiling up at me, his hand reaching up and pushing the hair away from my face. We got out of bed to take our showers. We were dressed and out of the door in around an hour. We walked down and picked up a granola, a banana, and water. We were sitting at the table eating our small snack when one of our guards walked in the room. He bowed his head until he was acknowledged by Everest. Go ahead. Everest finished up his water and looked over at the guard. They just crossed into the kingdom. They should be here in a few minutes. He bowed his head again, exiting the room. I guess we should be there to greet them, yet. I looked over at Everest, who nodded. We walked to the main entrance of the castle, Trevor meeting us there. I gave him a small hug and straightened his shirt some. You look very nice. Thank you. He smiled. Don't be nervous. I told him and he took a deep breath. I am a mixture of nervousness and excited at seeing Brian and Taylor. He grinned at us both. We are too, bud. Everest placed a hand on his shoulder, gripping it softly. We walked outside and took our places at the top of the steps. I could hear their vehicles roaring through the streets as they got closer. Trevor was fidgeting next to me with Everest on the other side with a cold expression on his face. I wonder if Bridget is traveling with them or staying home. Everest linked me. I had hoped that she would stay home and just send Daniel and the kids, but something told me she wouldn't allow Brian and Taylor to stay without a fight. Everest and myself were hoping that it wouldn't come to that. I had a feeling it would. We watched the vehicle come to a stop as we descended the stairs. The doors of their vehicles opened and Bridget stepped out of the vehicle with an expressionless face. Her gaze met mine and hatred crossed her face. I glanced over at Everest, who raised a brow at me. This was going to be a fun time. Absolutely thrilling. Trevor. I heard the squealing sounds of his little brothers and they all ran to one another, hugging and loving on each other. I smiled as they made their way to us, hugging our legs. We returned the hugs as Bridget and Daniel approached us. Bridget greeted Everest warmly and turned to me and made a curtsy. My queen, you look well. More well than others. Whatever do you mean? I asked. My dear, please. Daniel warned her and she flashed a fake smile. Oh, nothing, just stating that some of our territory is still hurting. She commented. We are very well aware, I told her. Are you? She questioned. Enough of this. Everest growled at her, causing them to both shrink back and away from us. Anything further I will put you into the cells. He warned her. Of course, Your Majesty. I am very sorry. She bowed her head to him. Trevor was glaring at his aunt. Aunt Bridget, if you are going to be nasty, you can just leave. She gasped. I will do no such thing. She seemed shocked. Then for the love of everything just stop. Trevor let out a growl. The kids hid behind us and I sighed heavily. We have the same rooms set up for you both. I looked at them except the boys, they have their own room on the same floor as Trevor. I turned and walked them inside. Trevor followed behind us as I was holding onto Brian and Taylor's hands. I showed the kids to their room and they excitedly ran in. I had it all decked out with the latest toys and games. Is this all for us? Taylor turned to look at me. It is. I smiled. Sweet. Brian did a happy dance before yelling at Trevor. Come here, Trevor, look. I will leave you all to catch up. If you need me, let me know. I smiled and walked out of their room. I was on my way to the conference room to discuss the kids' future when I heard Daniel and Bridget having a hushed argument. I stopped listening to them. I knew I shouldn't have, but she seemed to have an issue with everything that was going on. I had told myself over the last few hours to be the queen I was born to be. I would not take any disrespect from anyone, including this woman. I don't know why, but I feel that she has something to do with the entire Witch's Council breaking in and causing all kinds of hell the last 2 weeks. I listened in on their hushed argument where Daniel was pleading with her to listen. No, Daniel, this wretched woman is the cause of Sarah's death, her father's death. She should have died many years ago when her family was attacked. She murdered my friends, no my family, and I am supposed to sit by, smile, and act as if everything was okay? Because it is not. She murdered Sarah, Daniel. Bridget was almost yelling now, not caring who heard her. Daniel made hushing sounds. I told you if you were to come you would have to act as if everything was okay because it was okay. They have been so gracious in rebuilding our territory. Been gracious to our nephew and have taken him under their wings. I am sorry Sarah is dead, but she committed treason. She scoffed, surely making a monster out of him too. And she is insane if she thinks I am just going to allow her to take the boys away. Oh Bridget, shut up! He yelled at her. You know that they would be better protected here. They will learn so much more, here. They will have their own pack to go to once they get Trevor's training and pack up and running. They will have a beautiful life. A better life. A stronger life. How dare you? How dare you side with them and not your own family? She huffed out and I found a smile cross my lips. I heard her stomp off and Daniel leaned against the wall with a sigh. I counted to 20 before I rounded the corner. Good afternoon, Daniel. I smiled at him. Oh, Your Majesty, good afternoon. He bowed to me, turning back in the direction his mate had stormed off. Hope you are finding everything okay. I looked past him as I heard a door open and slam close in the distance. Yes, Your Majesty, we are. I just believe my mate is having a hard time with everything. He sighed and seemed to begin to sweat. Are you okay? Come with me. I offered and he nodded his head and followed me down to the kitchen. I looked at one of the staff members to grab some tea and sat down next to him at the table. You know you can talk to me about anything that is bothering you or your mate. We hope we can offer any help you or your mate may ever need. I know losing family is difficult. I lost both my biological and adoptive parents. I smiled warmly at him. Yes, I know. I am so very grateful for everything you and our king have been doing for my pack. He sighed and looked down at his feet. I am worried that something is going on with Bridget. I feel like she is hiding something. Well, I know that she is hiding something, I just can't prove anything. He looked back up at me wearing a frown on his face. My wolf is so conflicted with the entire situation, but we have our family and our pack to look out for. He sighed. Hey, don't worry about a thing. I appreciate you telling me this, truly I do. It shows your dedication to the kingdom. If there is anything at all to uncover, it will happen. Do not stress about trying to uncover anything yourself. I know you and your wolf are having a difficult time with this. I smiled at him and he bowed to me. If you or your family needs anything before dinner tonight, please do not hesitate to ask me. Will do, thank you, Your Majesty. You are very gracious. He bowed to me before I turned to leave. I didn't trust Bridget. I may not be able to prove it, but I had a suspicion that she was behind a few incidents that have been happening around here. Goddess help her if she is guilty and had a helping hand in what has happened. I felt Charlotte growl inside. You need to read her mind. If she was part of the recent attack that allowed Dexter to escape, she is dead. Charlotte warned. I agreed with her. I wouldn't give her any warning and I wouldn't hesitate to give her the justice she deserved. I knew I should be strong enough to read her, just knowing that it could exhaust me was making me hesitate. A few hours later, we were sitting at the table with our guests. I looked around the table at everyone who seemed to be having a good time. Well, everyone except Bridget. She had an annoyed look at her, as if she had better things to be doing. She appeared to seem like she wanted to be anywhere but here. I looked over to the boys, who were all laughing and having a great time together. Everest, Daniel, Jameson, and Ted were all engaged in a conversation about restoring some building that had been burned down back in their pack. It was an older historic building and even with the fire that tore through it, the structural integrity was still in great shape. Amber was sitting next to me and was quiet. She was watching Bridget with me and attempting to pull her into conversation. But everything she responded with was short, curt replies. I could sense Daniel's uneasiness and Trevor was starting to get annoyed with his aunt. He was hiding it by pretending to be distracted with his two brothers. Trevor was talking to them about his adventures here within the castle walls and things that had been happening. I decided now was the best time to discuss why they were really here in the first place. To hell with Bridget, I am not going to try to make things comfortable for her. Charlotte was cheering me in the background to get everything out in the open. So, Daniel, Bridget, there are things that I would really love to discuss with you both. I started and sat down with my fork now on the table with a smile. Daniel turned and smiled and nodded his head, seeming to be happy about the conversation. He knew what it was to be about. The boys. Bridget, on the other hand, was not open to conversation. Bridget's eyes were partially squinted, glaring in my direction. So I called her out on it. Bridget, you can wipe that look right off your face. I don't know what your problem is with me, but you had best get over it. Oh, I had best get over it. When you have completely turned my life upside down. She countered with a scoff and an eye roll. I stood in my seat and placed my hands on the table, leaning on them as I spoke in a firm tone. Your life has been turned upside down? My family, my biological and adoptive parents, were murdered. I had zero clue who I was, living in a wolf pack hidden because I was going to be dead. Some stupid prophecy involving me bringing the worlds together put my life and the ones I love in danger. While yes, I do agree that your life may have been inconvenient because of Dexter, but your people are the ones who decided to go against the law and the kingdom. I have been rejected, exiled, kidnapped, drugged, concussed, and lost my pup through all of this, but your life has been slightly inconvenienced. So my apologies that your life is so awful that your people have to be held responsible for their treasonous crimes. If you have had any hand in what has recently transpired here, Goddess bless your wretched soul. The boys are staying with us. I was going to be nice and ask your thoughts on this matter, but you have been nasty the entire time. By deceleration of the crown, the boys shall remain in the kingdom, taking residence in the castle with their oldest brother, Trevor. I was nearly shouting. Charlotte was seething under me, and then it happened as she was screaming at me. I tapped into her mind. I was fed up and ready for my revenge. The warmth of seeking the truth through her mind, I saw her love affair with Sir Brennan, after she was mated to Daniel. It was a scandal for sure. She was his secret lover and he was hers. I watched as Daniel was screaming about how her sleeping with him had pained him. He was crying and begging her to stop. She agreed to stop seeing Brennan, but she still loved him after all of those years that had passed. Sarah was her daughter, stripped from Bridget's arms at birth. She resented her mate for it. He couldn't bear seeing the infidelity of Bridget's affair every single day. It hurt too much. So Daniel did the only thing that he knew he could and should have done. He sent Sarah to live and be raised by Brennan, and she hated him every day for it. She hated me for having to hold up the law on their treasonous crimes. She hated their death, their blood was on my hands, and she wanted her own revenge. She is the one who sought out and contacted the Witch's Council. She wants me dead, she wants her revenge to be sweet. She would love to watch as my life slowly left my body. I growled and never felt myself shift into my Lecan. Charlotte was ready to kill her. She is the reason why our pup is dead. I couldn't even explain everything that happened, but everything went black in her mind. It was blank. No matter how hard I tried to search, her mind was now off to me. When I blinked and opened my eyes, I was in a puddle of her blood. Her blood had covered my entire body. Her head had rolled and was on the table in front of Daniel, who was now screaming for his beloved. Then cursing her stupidity. Everyone else just sat in silence as blood oozed from Bridget's body. Trevor was shielding his brothers and was ushering them out of the room. I turned to look back at Everest, who seemed unfazed by it all. I slowly moved off of the table as I shifted back into my human form. Charlotte eased back into my mind as I sat next to Everest. I could tell he knew she had something to do with everything that had been going on. Explain, my love. Do not leave out any details. Everest looked over at me as he turned his body in his seat to face me. I felt Everest's hand move across my face. He wiped the tears off of my cheeks that I didn't realize were there. I just murdered someone in cold blood. I was a monster. An evil monster. How could I? In front of the boys too. Oh, goddess, what have I done? Oh, they will never trust me. They will never want to be around me. What have I done? I cried harder as I stood there. No, well, we delivered justice. Stop. Do you hear me? Stop and listen to me. She deserved it. Sorry about the boys, I just couldn't control my rage any longer. Charlotte countered in my mind. I knew that she had a point and that I should listen to her, but this guilt was consuming my entire being. I looked into Everest's eyes and inhaled deeply. I was able to successfully tap into her mind. She has contacted the Witch's Council. She is the reason Dexter was able to escape. She let them know exactly where they were being held. I paused and frowned. What is it? Everest looked up at me. I am not sorry for what Charlotte has done. She did what was needed to be done. I turned to look at Daniel. I am sorry, however, for the loss of your mate. You deserve someone who will truly love you for everything you are. Not have hidden love affairs and babies from their lover. I am sorry for the years of pain you have had to endure because of her and her lack of judgment. That sounded harsh. Charlotte commented in the back of my mind. He knows that it is the truth, I told her. I heard Daniel release a ragged-sounding sigh. Look, I know to you and your wolf that it seems hard to think it will get better, but, Daniel interrupted me as he glanced around the room. I am so relieved. Seriously. She was so disrespectful and hateful. Thank you, my queen. Thank you. I am free from her. He let out a loud laugh, obviously in shock, and clapped his hands together. Haha, wow. Okay. So, it may have scarred the children, but it will give them a good lesson in following the rules. I need to get to them. He excused himself from the table, hurrying out the door. I was left confused by the way he was acting. How strange it was of him to be so happy that his mate was murdered. Maybe he is just as crazy as her. Charlotte commented, and I felt myself nod my head. I settled into my chair at the dinner table and looked at my half-eaten plate. I was no longer hungry. I looked down the table at the body of Bridget, her head still on the table. Just as I was about to ask for it to be removed, I heard the snapping sound of Everest and his fingers. A few people quickly walked into the room, bowing to us both, and he addressed them, "Please clean up the mess after we take Bridget's body and her head to the morgue to be processed. Send her body to wherever Daniel would like for it to be sent or disposed of properly. He may still be in shock from the ordeal. Let me know when this is taken care of and finished. I am locking the main entrance door while everyone cleans." I watched them bow and get to work. I stood and walked out of the room, Everest walking right behind me. "Where are you going?" he asked me. "To get her blood off my body, then for a run," I told him. "I will join you," he added, and there was silence. I got into the shower and washed her blood off of my body. I didn't waste my time washing everything, seeing how I would be dirty in a few hours from my run. When I stepped into our bedroom, I found that it was completely empty and I was alone. I looked at myself in the mirror that was on the wall and saw myself for the first time. I was a dangerous being. I was no longer the shy, scared, little girl who got picked on for being different. I was the killer in the dark that wanted justice and vengeance for what she had endured her entire life. I breathed in deeply and let the air out of my lungs slowly as I pushed the hair away from my face, tucking it behind my ears. You will get your revenge. You will get it from whoever stands in your way. You will right the wrongs and bring the worlds together by doing so, I told myself as I felt Charlotte's approval and tears streamed down my cheeks. I reached up and wiped them away. I saw her watching through my eyes as she spoke to me, "You are so much stronger than you realize. Yes, you have a cold side from all of the wrongdoings, but your warmth and your love holds everything together. Your people love you, your mate adores you, and those boys, well, those boys think the world of you. I know what happened was difficult and I am sorry they had to see their aunt be dealt with. You know, as well as I know, that it was an excellent teaching moment. A moment of justice. In reality, the way that I truly see it, she played a role in her own family's demise. She is part of the reason those boys are orphaned and their pack destroyed. Just know, what you're feeling is normal and no one blames you, not even Daniel." With that she stepped away and back into the deepest part of my mind, leaving me alone to process my feelings. I walked out of our room and made my way down to the courtyard. I rounded the corner of the pond to the back gate that had an entrance to the forest. I nearly bumped into Everest, who was waiting for me in his lichen form. I smiled and looked up at his beast and placed my hands onto his chest. I slowly moved them around and gave him a much-needed hug. He wrapped me up in his and held onto me tightly. His chest was vibrating with approval noises and we seemed to melt into one another. After a few minutes, I felt Charlotte ready to shift and I stepped back. I shifted into my lichen and we took off sprinting into the woods. Instead of stepping back and allowing her full control, I watched the world through her eyes for the first time in a long time. She was so agile and quick as she ran. She bobbed and weaved around major obstacles. She was fast, faster than many that I have seen run before. Everest was behind us and she pushed harder, running faster as Everest got closer to her. It was like she turned her boosters on and put more distance between the two of him. I heard him growl behind us and she let out a howl. Suddenly we went flying and into an old, decaying tree. It crumbled around us as the dirt flew about, debris getting into our fur. A loud deathly growl and fighting began around me. I suddenly realized we had run so far that we were on the outskirts of the territory. I turned to look at Everest as he had a rogue's neck in his mouth and growling as blood trickled out of his jaw. The whining from the rogue sounded sad, desperate. I moved into his mind and was shocked at what I found. Yes, this was a rogue. But this rogue was approached by Dexter a few days ago to join him. When he declined, Dexter attacked him and thought that he was left for dead. That is when a powerful being came down and gave him a message. It was our moon goddess. Her message was to fight to unite the territories, be strong together, train daily, build abilities, travel south and more. It was like flashes of the future. Family, war, death, victory. His mission was to just find us and give us this message. I shifted, running to Everest and the rogue yelling "Stop! Stop! Let him go!" He didn't let him go at first and a growl came from deep within and he dropped the rogue. I turned my attention to the rogue shift. He did as I said and bowed his head to us. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You're welcome." I smiled at him. "Well, what did you see?" Everest looked at me with a confused but curious look on his face. The moon goddess sent him. He was approached by Dexter. He refused to help him and he was sent here immediately with a message from her to us. I can't explain it all, but he can be trusted. I glanced between the two of them. Everest released the boy and was watching him closely. "So, name?" He lifted his head to look at Everest, who was towering over him. "Matthew." "Where did you come from?" Everest asked him again. "The Western Mountains. I had been living out there for around a year, when this lichen broke down the doors of my small home I built. He demanded me to help him and when I refused, he pretty much destroyed my home with me under all the damage." He paused and took a deep breath, obviously holding back tears. I just wanted to try to live a simple and quiet life when I was thrown out of the crystal pack. He looked down at his feet. Oh? Why were you thrown out of the crystal pack? I asked him, before Everest could say anything, even though I already knew the answer. I slept with the Alpha's daughter and she got pregnant, but miscarried because of her parents, who gave her some type of potion. I ruined her, Alpha Davidson said, and then he banished me the day I turned 18. That was over a year ago. I didn't want to get caught up in any other drama, so I took to the mountains, in between two small human towns. I don't want any trouble, please. He looked back down at his feet. He had a pure heart, even if he was a rogue. I could tell that he really did love her and the entire situation was sad. I looked over at Everest and he nodded his head. Would you like to accompany us back into the kingdom, freshen up, eat, and tell us more about your previous life? If you would like, I am sure we could find some rank within our warriors. Everest walked around him to face him as he spoke. Really? Matthew looked shocked. Of course. You can train with us the next few days and we can see how things go. If you mesh well with the others and do well during your sessions, we can find you a place. Everest stuck his hand out and Matthew took it, shaking in agreement. We all shifted and ran back to our castle. As we approached, warriors met us, smelling Matthew's rogue scent but were obviously confused to see him running between Everest and myself. When Everest let out a warning growl as they approached, they bowed and backed away. As if we had no clue, a rogue wolf, of all things, was running between us. Charlotte let her eyes roll and I laughed inside. Avalynn daydreaming about the last few weeks. I sat on our terrace, sipping my morning coffee. Everything was calm and quiet. No one had heard from Dexter but we knew it was because he was in hiding. He was obviously being shielded by the Witch's Council, there was no doubt about it. I took another sip of my coffee and watched as the sun rose slowly. Beautiful colors of oranges, yellows, and pinks kissed the dark blue sky. Fluffy clouds drifted above my head, with the cool breeze kissing my skin. I focused and thought about the last few weeks and how life has changed since everything has happened. The last few weeks we have been focused on training and getting the boys acclimated and Matthew training with the rest of the warriors. For a rogue wolf, he seemed to fit in well. He was strong and we were able to find out he was one of the strongest upcoming warriors out of his pack in school. He was quick and very smart. He quickly picked up on our drills and exercises with ease. And what was more shocking was that he was able to keep up with anything and everything that was thrown his way. Something was different about him, I just couldn't place it. I trained with everyone and worked on powering up my abilities with a select few. We were getting ready to host a dinner tonight with every alpha in the territory and every strong-abled, high-ranking Leakin from our territory here for the next week. We would be going south soon and really needed to get everyone on the same page. It was going to be a packed house. The boys were fitting in just fine and their uncle had left and gone back to his pack. I had heard, through the grapevine, that the minute he arrived at his pack he found a second chance mate. I was happy because honestly I still felt guilty for doing what I had done to Bridget, even if she deserved it. The boys loved to follow me around and watch my every move. I liked that they enjoyed being my shadows. They loved coming to training and attempted to do a lot of the moves we were all doing. It was cute and sweet. They have completely stolen my heart. All three of the boys had their own rooms in our wing of the castle. Once Daniel had left, we moved their rooms to a permanent location and much closer to us. I decorated all the boys' room with what they were into, with the help of Trevor. He didn't care about decorating, but he enjoyed shopping for all the things. He really enjoyed getting everything he needed or wanted to make his room, truly his room. Even with everything being all decked out, the boys were uneasy staying in their own room. I understood where they were coming from and put up rolling beds in Trevor's room. It took about a week and a half for them to all be comfortable in their own rooms. They all slept in the same room up until yesterday. After they have been here these last few weeks, I honestly couldn't see my life without them. Especially when I watch the way Everest is with them, he was truly a wonderful father figure. We are a weird blended family, I guess. Lycans and wolves. It's funny when you stop to think about it. Normal lycans and wolves do not get along. We are better at it because, well, I grew up with wolves and we are both royals. I never heard the sliding door open up as Everest stepped outside. My mind was bouncing around from one detail to another as flashes of images from Matthew's mind appeared in my own. I closed my eyes as I was trying to pinpoint where he was. At that very moment, wished that I knew how to draw. Unfortunately, I was not blessed with this talent and so I was sure that trying to attempt it would be a major failure. When Everest cleared his throat, I nearly threw my coffee up in the air. "Oh, good morning." I smiled up at him. "Good morning, my love. What are you out here doing out here this early all alone?" he questioned. "Just enjoying the quiet before the storm." I looked back out into the dark wooded area. "Oh, what storm?" He pulled a chair away from the table and sat down next to me. "The boys will be waking up soon. I am trying to get into some type of routine with everything going on. It is an adjustment, a happy one, but still an adjustment." I leaned my head back against the wall. "We will get the hang of everything, just give it time." He leaned over and kissed me on the cheek, causing a smile to slowly make its way onto my face. "I love you." I happily sighed. "I love you," he replied. Later in the day, I stood with my hands on my hips breathing heavily. The workout and training had kicked my ass. Even though I was exhausted, the workout felt great. We had been working out and training hard non-stop for 2 hours. Now my muscles screamed for relief. I looked over at my mate who was walking around without his shirt on. I bit my bottom lip as I watched his muscles twitch and move under his skin. He looked absolutely delectable. My tongue darted out and wet my lips as I thought about all the things I wanted to do to him. "My queen. Are you ready to go to the gym and work on your abilities?" I wasn't paying her any attention and still watching my mate move around and in between warriors, helping them improve. "Hello? Oh, I see. What? Oh. Hi. Sorry, I was a bit distracted." I laughed. "Oh, no worries. I was just wondering if you were ready to go inside and into the gym to work on your specials." Jamie asked me. "Of course. Let's stop and grab a couple of waters on the way." I walked off with her and we went inside. We picked up our water and walked into the gym. Everything seemed to be normal and I had improved in the ability to search the mind down to just a few seconds. We worked for about another hour before calling it quits. When we walked out of the gym, I was nearly tackled by Brian and Taylor as Trevor laughed. I let out a laugh and hugged them all. We are here to take you to eat snacks with us. Taylor was holding my hand tightly in his own. For someone so small, he sure had a tight grip on me. Snacks? I love snacks. What kind of snacks did you all have in mind? I looked among the three of them. Banana! Taylor shouted. I was thinking a fruit salad and maybe some nuts. Brian shrugged. I thought potato chips. Trevor was scratching his head. Well, they all sound delicious, however, I think Brian's is more filling and should hold us over until we have dinner tonight. Dinner is to be later than normal as we have a few visitors arriving soon. We walked down the hall and into the kitchen. I asked the chef to make each of us a fruit salad bowl with a side of mixed nuts and cheese. We sat at the bar, on stools, talking and laughing together. Taylor, who was the youngest, slid off of his stool and made his way over to me, dragging his stool closer to me. I watched him bravely climb the stool and sit down carefully. I just wanted to be closer. He smiled at me. Be as close as you would like. That goes for you too. I smiled at Brian and Trevor, who nodded their heads, acknowledging me. I leaned over and slowly scooted Taylor's stool closer to me. We ate our snacks together and made our way back to our wing of the castle. The boys all went to get cleaned up and I did the same. Guests would be arriving shortly and we would all need to be ready to receive them together. I am sure everyone would be wondering about them all, but they would all understand. It is my duty after all to ensure the well-being of this family, who have quickly become a part of my family. I dressed in a flowy, knee-length, forest green dress. It was a modest V-neck and had ruffled sleeves. I put on a light, natural-looking makeup, earrings, and a necklace Everest had purchased for me. I was sitting in the chair, getting ready to put my heels on when Everest walked into the room. He stopped in his tracks as his eyes moved along my body. Wow, you are stunning. Absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. Thank you. I smiled and slid my heels on. I am going to check on the boys. I walked for the door. No need, they are downstairs and ready to go. Everest yelled from our large closet. Oh, okay. I will wait for you then. I sat back down and played a game on my phone, waiting for him to finish getting ready. About 25 minutes later, he was walking out in black slacks and a soft blue button-down shirt. He had a dinner coat in his hand, but as of now from his hot shower and rushing to get ready, he was a little warm and decided on carrying it down the steps. We reached downstairs, my hand in the crook of his arm, and the boys were sitting and talking quietly amongst themselves. Okay fellas, ready to go greet our guests with us? Everest asked them. We get to come greet important people. Brian's eyes lit up with excitement. Really? We get to come? Taylor softly spoke. Of course you get to come greet people with us. I smiled at them. It will be Everest, Trevor, then myself and you and Brian in front of us. I kneeled down to them and took both of their little hands in my own. Is that okay? It's okay with me. Taylor smiled at me. Yeah, same. I would like to meet people too. Brian nodded his head as his hand squeezed my own. When I stood, they stood with me. They held a tight grip on my hands and I held theirs. The three of us followed behind Trevor and Everest as they chatted with one another. We walked down the steps outside and waited for our first guests to arrive. We were only waiting for a few moments when the first SUV rolled into view. We introduced the boys to every person that arrived as our adopted sons. When Everest said it to the first guest, Trevor's head seemed to be on a swivel between us. He contained it until they walked away and he was about to burst into a million pieces from excitement. Really? You are adopting us? Trevor had a smile on his face. Well, I wanted to talk to you about it. See if it is okay or something that you would want to do. I told him and glanced at Everest, who had completely let it slip. Of course. I love you guys. You have done so much for me. You helped save my life. Missing an arm swapped with a robotic arm, you are both my heroes. Trevor moved to hug me and then Everest. I felt tears trying to break free. I was someone's hero. Me. I never thought something like that would happen. My heart swelled with pride at those little words. You are my hero, Trev. Brian told Trevor, as Taylor agreed with him. Yeah, you basically saved us from the bad guys, Taylor commented. I was suddenly taken back to that day when I found them wandering in the street, debris all around them. Their clothes were dirty and torn in so many places. I couldn't believe these two young children survived such a massacre. It was all thanks to their older brother. I thanked the moon goddess for bringing these sweet loving boys into my life. Now that they were here, I truly didn't know what I would do without them now. Finally, the last guest arrived and we all walked inside and made our way to the dining hall. The night was filled with heated discussion about our options. Some were ready to storm the Witch's Council blindly, others were obviously hesitant. Some even wanted to sit by and wait to see if anything would happen. I wasn't opposed to this idea, it would give us more time to prepare and just live our lives. We had no clue other than somewhere near the mountains. That is if he hasn't moved on, and now that the Witch's Council knows that we know, they could back off. Then again, they could bring down upon us, if they wanted. Then again, why haven't they done this already? Especially if they were all so very powerful, it didn't make much sense to me. Were they playing with us? Watching us from a distance? Infiltrating and disguising themselves as one of our own? I don't think they're doing anything like that. We would be able to tell. Charlotte snickered. Oh, yeah. That is true. How did I just forget I could go into others' minds? I rolled my eyes at myself. Sometimes I think that it's a good thing we are pretty. Charlotte hollered and was doubled over laughing. Shut up. I am tired. I frowned. That is no excuse, you were just creeping into every person's mind that you just met. Some things I could have done without knowing. Yuck. I couldn't help but to agree with her. Trevor, Brian, Taylor, and myself were walking down the hallway after dinner, making our way up to the boys' room when I happened to stumble upon two hushed voices. Adoptive sons? They chose to adopt some pitiful orphaned wolves? How pathetic! A man said. Peter, stop. You know the story of how she found them. It was sweet, I would have wanted to do the same. She sighed. Yet, like I would never let that happen. Everest seems weak. Let his mate do whatever she wants to do. Doesn't keep a tight leash on her. Probably why we are at war. Peter scoffed. I can't believe you. You are impossible. Do you not believe the story about how they met? She questioned him. Please, Ruth, don't be so absurd. I walked around the corner at that moment, the boys behind me. They both seemed to freeze in the spot I found them in. Peter seemed pale as he looked at me. I let out a growl and took another step towards him. Speak ill-willed of my boys again and I will rip out your tongue. He nodded his head. Yes, my queen. I bent down to his ear to whisper, careful how you speak about me or your king. Treason is a funny thing. I will take your head for it in the future. No questions asked, no warning. Well, other than this one. I stood up straight and smiled over to the trembling woman. Is he your mate? My head tilted, looking for a mark and not finding one. Yes, my queen, she replied quickly. You have yet to mark one another. I frowned. No, we haven't been mates very long, about 2 weeks. She was slowly calming down. Oh, I see. We waited and it was a bad idea. Anyway, Ruth, between you and I would think long and hard about whether this is who you want to be tied to for forever. Seems like trouble to me. Of course, I could be wrong. Am I wrong, Peter? I glanced over to him, his fists were balled at his side. I. Well, I don't think I am trouble. He stuttered. Treat her better. Do better. Make better choices. Watch your words because you never know who is listening. You both have a wonderful evening. Okay guys, let's get you up to your rooms. I turned to look at the kids before walking away and upstairs as they followed right behind me. She told them. Brian commented once we were up the stairs, causing a smile to cross my face. I knew at that very moment that I would protect these children from anyone and everything if I could and was capable of doing so. I would gladly lay my life on the line if it meant that they could live. That's called being a mother and a great parent, Charlotte commented, and I nodded my head in agreement. She was right, it was. I was sitting at my desk, filled with paperwork on the whereabouts of Dexter. I have tracked him down and if my calculations were correct, he was in the southwestern part of the Southern Territory. He was on the run and Everest sent some scouts down to confirm his location. We would not be put on a wild goose chase. My phone buzzed as a text came through. I picked it up off the desk and looked at the screen as it lit up. My eyes glanced over at the time. It was already 3 in the afternoon. Where has the time gone to today? Sheesh. I said out loud to myself. I put in my password to unlock my phone and went into the text screen. It was from Miranda. My lips tugged upwards as I read her long text message. Hey! We miss you. Cassie says hey, what's poppin'? Isn't she so very sassy now? Honestly, she is too sassy if you ask me and has been hanging around Brent too much lately. LOL. Anyway, some very exciting things are happening here in the south. We have found where the Witch's Council is hiding. We are watching them closely and using my magic to counter their cloaking spell to listen in on their conversations. They are working with Brent's brother, Dexter, and they are trying to figure out a way to get him back here so they can make their next move. We are fine now, but from what we understand, they want to take over the Southern Kingdom, then take back the North. They have an army behind them. It seems this is never ending. We might want to get together to come up with a plan and stop this nonsense before it begins? Thoughts? Oh, and our marking ceremony is on Friday. I am nervous. What if it doesn't work? I read her text and let out a long sigh. I stood up and stretched and walked out of my office and made my way to Everest's office. I walked in and he offered me a warm smile. I returned the smile and held up my phone with a small shake. Hey babe, we need to make plans soon. I got a text from Miranda. I told him and he nodded his head in acknowledgement. I too received a message, except from Brent and not Miranda. He chuckled, very detailed information on what is going on down there. Plans, which council movements, Dexter's exact location. I was just about to come find you and let you know we should get our bags packed. I watched as he leaned back in his office chair. I had sat down on the opposite side of the desk and nodded my head. Oh, I was going to ask the same from you. I smiled. Are the boys coming with us? He shook his head. I wish that they could, but I feel they would be safer here than coming with us. They could be a liability, a weakness. I couldn't stand if anything happened to them. He choked out the last few words, fighting back his own emotions. I know, I was going to suggest that they stay here with Amber and Jameson. He nodded his head, standing and walking around the desk. That sounds great. Jameson wouldn't feel comfortable leaving Amber right now anyway. Especially considering she is supposed to be taking it easy with a little over a month to go. His hand outstretched towards me. I placed my hand in his as I let him help me up from my chair. Good. The boys and the territory will be in good hands while we are away, I told him, and he smiled, leading me out the room. I guess we should inform everyone, he suggested, and I nodded as I walked with him down the hallway. I looked up at him when he stopped walking for a moment. His eyes were glazed over as he was obviously linking the people who we would be meeting with. When he was finished, he glanced down at me. Would you like to go for a short walk before dinner? I would like that very much, I answered as a smile played at the corners of my mouth. I allowed him to lead me outside to the gardens. We walked in silence, enjoying one another's company. We walked to the small pond that was filled with koi fish when we stopped. He pulled me closer to him, and not only could I feel the warmth of his body, but I swear I could hear his heart beating. Time seemed to slow down as his hand reached for my cheek. He turned my face gently to look up to him as intimacy between us grew quickly. My breathing hitched and my heart seemed to skip a beat. Heat flowed through my entire body as his other hand was gently placed on the opposite cheek. He moved me slowly off of him and I gave him my hand as he slowly stood. He held me close to him and whispered into my ear, "We need to freshen up before our dinner meeting." We both freshened up and I changed into a simple black and white dress with black heels. A soft knock came from the door and I opened it. On the other side of the door were 3 of the cutest boys in the entire castle. "Hey! Are you both ready?" Trevor asked. "Almost," I said as I put the last earring in my ear. "Now we are good to go." I gave the three of them a warm smile as they all took turns giving me the best hugs. Let's go eat. Everest walked out and shut the door behind him. When we walked into the dining hall, a decent group of people were gathered around the table waiting for our arrival. When they noticed us, they all stood and bowed their heads down. We walked past them and made our way to our own seats. We sat down first and everyone followed suit. Food was served to us all individually by our servers, and when everyone had their plates, we all began to eat. Midway through the dinner, Everest cleared his throat, causing everyone to stop eating and look in our direction. I set my fork on my plate and took a generous sip of my wine. If I could take this time and inform everyone why exactly I have called this dinner meeting. He paused for a moment, his eyes looking around the room. He motioned towards Matthew, who seemed to become uncomfortable in his chair at the sudden attention as everyone was now looking at him. Many of you have met Matthew already. He is by far one of the strongest wolves I have had the pleasure of training with. Avalynn and I came across him on a run not too long ago. He had some of the most important messages to give to us. We took it into consideration, and with that, along with some new information from our friends in the south, we are leaving tomorrow morning to hunt down Dexter first. Then we will be making our way to King Brent's castle and taking out the Witch's Council. Jameson and Amber will be standing to make decisions until Avalynn and I return along with part of our warriors to help protect our kingdom. Trevor, you have the duty of protecting your brothers until we return. Everest sat down and the room was silenced. Everyone's eyes darted around the table, looking at one another. The silence was deafening before Jameson decided to speak. We are behind you both. Whatever needs to be done, have no worries, it will be done and taken care of. We, both wish you safe travels on your journey to rid the world of evil. We will keep a lookout for your sons and make sure they and the kingdom will be well taken care of in your absence. Thank you, my friend. Everest nodded in his direction in appreciation. Thank you for your kind words. I look forward and feel honored to be fighting alongside of you and our queen. Matthew nodded his head. Don't worry about a thing here. I will make sure my brothers mind and behave. Trevor looked at us both with a smile. Just give them hell for me. His smile widened. Absolutely. You can count on that one. Everest smiled. Just make sure you come home. Brian frowned. Yeah, Taylor commented. Because we are going to miss you. He now had a deep frown on his face as he crossed his arms. We will be back, I promise. I told all three of them. We will be here waiting for you. Trevor smiled at me and I returned the smile. Just be careful, Brian sighed. I wish we could go too. I do too. I smiled. But it will be way too dangerous. I want to make sure I can keep you three safe. I understand. I am just not happy about it. Brian got up out of his chair, walked over to me and gave me a tight hug and whispered, "Please come back." My heart broke at hearing his small voice crack. I wrapped him up tightly in a hug as his brothers walked over to get their hugs in. Tears were threatening to spill over and I cleared my throat. What do you boys say we watch movies and eat junk food tonight? I'm down for that, Everest said with a smile. Oh heck yes! Trevor shouted, causing everyone to chuckle. Nothing scary? Taylor asked. No way. Everest laughed. Good. Brian said. We finished dinner with everyone and went over the plans with our head warriors. When everyone was in agreement with the timeline of events, we made our way upstairs to watch a movie and eat junk food. The boys all fell asleep around the room, from the couch to the chaise lounge and a chair. They looked too peaceful to wake to make them go up to their rooms. Instead, I placed blankets over their sleeping bodies, kissed the tops of their heads, and then I turned out the lights. Everest left the television going as we both made our way to our bedroom. Tomorrow was going to be a long day of traveling south and we would need whatever sleep we could get. I looked at the clock and it read 1 in the morning. At least I could get a short nap on the plane ride. I was definitely going to need it at this rate. I laid down on the bed as Everest brought me closer to his body. I relaxed in his arms, snuggling into him as my exhausted body quickly fell asleep. 4 hours is not nearly enough sleep by any means to function. I don't know how Everest is doing it. With the right amount of coffee, on the other hand, can help you make it to the airport and get on the plane so you can nap. The plane ride was going to be an 8-hour flight. We would be landing 2 hours away from where Dexter was hiding out. It was a kill on sight and kill anyone who would be standing in our way from here on out. The only time we would not kill on sight is if I found something in them, like being forced out of fear of family members being hurt. I woke up a few hours later on the flight about 3 hours from us touching down. I wrapped the soft blanket around my body as I walked out of the bedroom on our plane. All eyes turned to me as I walked out. I smiled at them as their heads bowed to me out of respect. I made my way to Everest, and, of course, he was at the front of the plane discussing a new plan. When he smiled at me, his arms opened for me. I leaned into his arms as they wrapped around me tightly. Oh, I could be here forever. You woke up just in time, babe. His voice was like velvet. I did? What are you guys discussing? I asked him as my eyes darted between the men and women that were around. How we are supposed to be going about things, of course. Brent, Miranda, and a few of their men will be meeting us at the airport. They will be aiding us in finding Dexter's hideout. Apparently, overnight he hired someone to try to breach their castle. They, naturally, failed. When they questioned him, he informed them he would be paid a large sum and to bring Cassie to Dexter for a ransom. Brent took his head shortly after that. He is angry, rightfully so. Miranda is ready to murder anything and anyone who stands in her way. Everest sighed just before he placed a soft kiss on my forehead. Well, I do not really blame them. If someone was to threaten my family and loved ones, nothing would stand in my way. I hope this doesn't get in the way of them marking one another later this week. She was so excited about it. I sighed while thinking. They could always move it and change the date. Honestly, I am surprised that they haven't already marked one another yet. I shrugged and moved out of Everest's arms. Where are you going? Everest was wearing a sad frown, upset that I was leaving his side. To freshen up, we will be shifting soon after landing, yes. I raised my brow as I turned back to look at him. Well, yes, Everest answered. Okay then. I would rather have something more forgiving on than this uncomfortable pantsuit. I am going to slip into my leggings and a tank top. I smiled. I honestly can't believe you fell asleep in that anyway. You must have been tired. He had the best smile on his face. It was soft yet he seemed like he was full of mischief. I was so very tired. Want to help me change? I grinned and gave a small wink. He groaned as his frown deepened. You're killing me. I want to but... He trailed off as his eyes looked down at my hands that had unbuttoned the bottom 2 buttons. No? Well, that is a shame then. His eyes had darkened as he watched me. I turned away and walked back to our room. I pushed open the door and closed it behind me. As soon as the door shut, I heard an aggravated growl, causing a small giggle to escape. His hearing picked it up as he yelled from the other side to me, "It is not funny." That statement caused a roar of laughter to commence outside my door. I freshened up and changed my clothes. I walked over to the mirror and pulled my hair up into a messy bun and opened the door. When the door opened, Everest was leaning against the door frame. His heart was beating erratically and I could feel the heat radiating off of him. His mouth was slightly opened as he was looking down at me. His eyes were fixated on my lips as I was watching his eyes. I moved up to stand up on my tiptoes, pulling him to me and placed a soft kiss on his mouth. His lips pressed into mine, moving hungrily as he instantly deepened our kiss. He walked me back into the bedroom, his hands traveling all along my sides, holding me close. "We can't." I broke the kiss and whispered, gasping for air. "Why not?" He frowned. "They will hear." "They probably already hear." My chest was heaving up and down. "Bah! They don't care. You're my mate." He countered. "Yes, but I am also their queen. You are their king. We are held to a higher standard." I tried reasoning with him and the expression on his face told me that as much as he hated it, he agreed with me. "You're right. You are just, so very hard to resist." He purred into my ear, his breath hot against me skin almost causing me to melt. "You think that this is so easy? Every fiber in my being is screaming to rip your clothes off and ride you until we land." I frowned. "Do it then." He teased me, as his fingers played with the top of my tank, pulling it back to look inside. If we were alone, it would be without a single hesitation on the matter. I brought his hand up to my mouth and kissed the tip of every single finger. "Come on, they're waiting for us." I held his hand as we walked out of the room. I looked up and everyone's eyes diverted directly to the floor, avoiding our gaze. Some were wearing smiles. They were happy that their king and queen had so much love for one another and couldn't get enough of one another. It was a sign of a strong bond, a strong kingdom. We were sitting at a table with several others discussing our plans, once again. Only to make sure everyone was on the same page. After going through our plans for the last hour and eating lunch, the pilot came over the speaker letting us know that we would be landing in the next few minutes. He instructed us to get in our seats and buckle in to prepare for landing. We all took our seats and buckled in. Everest took my hand in his as we began to descend towards the ground at the airport. Our plane made a slight bounce and made its way to a stop. We waited for a moment as stairs were brought to us and the door opened. Our warriors exited our plane first before we followed after them. Miranda and Brent greeted us both. The guys shook hands as Miranda wrapped her arms around me tightly in a hug. I returned the hug to her and stepped back. "It is good to see you," I told her. "It is nice to see you. Ready to get to work?" Miranda looked between Everest and myself. Everest nodded his head. "Absolutely. Let's go. We are wasting time." "Shifting?" Brent asked. "Yes." Everest answered. "You good to ride?" Brent turned to look down at Miranda and she nodded her head. I went ahead and shifted. My bones cracked and elongated as fur began to sprout and a snout grew on my face. Charlotte stretched her muscles and made a yawning sound. I have kept her tucked away and in the back of my mind for too long. We watched together as everyone shifted into their forms. I watched as Miranda climbed onto Brent's back and held on to him for dear life. I heard her whisper into his ear, "I'm good, I'm ready." As her heart sounded like it was about to beat out of her chest. I couldn't wait for her to be one of us, she deserved to be happy. We took off through the woods, running in the direction of where Dexter had been located previously. We ran hard and fast, pushing our limits as we seemed to be covering ground quickly. We had expected to meet forces of some kind, but surprisingly we met none along the way. We stood back in the woods up on the hill as we looked over at the town below. It was rumored he was trying to hide among the humans. If he was, in fact, living with humans, we would have to be extremely careful. He was already unstable. We can't risk our exposure to humans. It would cause a panic in them, mass chaos really. One thing was for sure though, Dexter's days were numbered. Not too much longer and he would be finished, for good. The trilene was hiding us. The breeze was light as Charlotte shook her head and body. The breeze tickled as it made its way across our body from our head to the tip of our tail. Charlotte inhaled deeply as a hint of a familiar scent drifted by. It was Dexter's scent, all those weeks with him, it was branded on our memory. My head turned towards the direction where the wind was blowing from as we inhaled again. It was him, I was sure of it. I walked in that direction, keeping behind the tree line, a low growl escaping. Everest's voice drifted through my mind. "Where are you going? Did you see anything or hear anything? I guess we should communicate with him." I laughed as Charlotte snorted, hot air coming out of her nostrils. She inhaled deeply as I linked with Everest. "It is Dexter's scent." It was faint, but it was his. "I am sure of it," I told Everest. "How sure are you?" he questioned me. "Willing to bet everything I have on it." Charlotte turned so we could look at him as he approached us. We were squatting down, looking out over the town below. It was a small human town. Though it is a small town, it was kind of cute. Honestly, it looked as if it was rich and full with all kinds of history. A road circled around a courthouse that appeared to be freshly painted white as the road around the square had been newly repaved. There were small businesses that were lined up along all sides of the courthouse and everyone was out and about, enjoying their afternoon. I am sure the buzz of a mysterious stranger had all of the town's people talking. I could hear their faint voices from up here. Our hearing was excellent, which is why we had to be careful. He could hear us coming if we didn't keep our voices down and our scent away. I turned and looked back at Miranda as she was passing out necklaces that had her special herbal blend to keep our scent hidden from other wolves and lichens. They nodded their heads in acknowledgement to her as she handed them what they would need. I knew a collection this big must have taken her a few weeks to prepare. When she reached me, she helped to put the necklace around Charlotte's neck. Though it was a snug fit, it was perfect. It sat nicely underneath our fur. She helped Everett with his and moved to stand by Brent. All four of us overlooked the town as the sun was setting in the background. We were linking back and forth, discussing when we would make our move. We didn't want to make spectacles out of ourselves, so we decided to go during the middle of the night. We would sit there, in the tree line, and wait until the early hours of the morning, when the humans would be asleep. It would be best for our world to continue to remain hidden. To remain a scary story, humans would tell their offspring to stay out of the woods. Like we would eat a human child. I turned to look around us as our Lekan warriors were all lying down and being still, trying their best to blend into the forest. Time seemed to tick by slowly as the sun faded and the full moon came out to greet us with open arms. I felt energized and ready to make a move. Charlotte was stirring to get into it, ready to take action. She laid down, the brush concealing our body perfectly. Everest came and laid beside us. The warmth he was radiating felt nice. Even if I was already warm, it was nice to feel him so close to me. We waited well into the middle of the night, shifting into our human forms, taking precaution from the humans. Nothing more alarming than a pack of scary lichens stomping through town. We made the trek down the side of the large hill into town. The moon was bright and comforting above. I could smell him the closer we got into town. He must either live close by or we are near a popular hangout that he likes to frequent. Brent and Miranda were walking next to Everest and myself. He's been here recently. His scent is heavy. Brent said in a low voice. I can smell him too. I agreed with Brent. I felt Everest's hand slip into mine, squeezing it tightly in his own. It was almost possessive the way he held it. The fact that I could recognize his scent bothered him and flared a bit of jealousy in him. I am with you, always. Until my dying breath. I linked him and his grip on my hand loosened some. We walked down the dirt-covered road and came to a stop sign. There wasn't much around. The way his scent lingered, I thought there would have been more to see. This could be where he would leave to shift and go back into town. I looked up at a sign. We were at the corner of Edward Avenue and Avalynn Canyon RD. The trees here offered a great cover for him. He definitely frequented this place here often. We made our way inward and closer to the heart of town. We moved as quickly and quietly as we could. We stumbled upon a bar, restaurant, maybe a type of nightclub? It was unclear. The sign had all of them listed. Whatever it was loud and reeked of Dexter. He was here. We have found him. Now what? Humans were all around us. Standing outside smoking, laughing and cutting up. An older couple were dancing in one another's arms as music blasted from the establishment. The door burst open as a young girl came outside, running happily into the arms of Dexter. You're back. About time. Come and let's lock one of the bathrooms. She kissed him. He held her in a hug and we all paused to watch the scene between them unfold. He set her down on the ground, pushing back her long dark locks behind her ear as he placed a kiss upon her forehead. Wait. Tu frowned at that. He looked up from her, aware that he was being watched, and looked right in our direction. He froze for a moment as a small smile began to tug at the corner of my mouth. My head moved to the side as I looked him up and down. He leaned down and whispered in the woman's ear. "Go. Now. Tell the others." Her head snapped back in the direction of where we were standing and she let out a threatening growl before she took off. She was a wolf. She transitioned to her wolf in mid-stride. She was large, quick, and her fur was red with white mixed in. "Someone grab her, now! Leave her alive!" Brent commanded, as two of his people took off after her immediately. Dexter took off in the opposite direction and ran back from where he had come from. We were on the opposite side of the bar and had to wait until no one was around and we shifted. He was headed for where we came from, where he frequented his shifting and runs. We were closing in on him when suddenly I was blindsided and taken out by another Lycan who hit me near my shoulder, us toppling to the ground. More came out from the woods as the other Lycan's claws dug into my arm, ripping the flesh. I snapped at their arms, and kicked them with my feet. Standing tall, I walked over to the Lycan that attacked me and pushed my hand down on their chest with a ton of pressure. I grinned down at them sinisterly. They have no clue about the monster that I was unleashing. They didn't know it yet, but they were already dead, with only seconds left to live. They clawed at my arms as my claws extended into their chest, one by one, their eyes widening in realization of what was about to happen. They struggled underneath me, their claws ripping at my skin, but it didn't matter to me or Charlotte. "We will heal." I pushed my hand inside of their chest cavity and ripped their heart out in one swift motion, standing and dropping the heart to the ground. The fighting around us ended just as quickly as it began. It was just a diversion to give him space and time to run away from us. It wouldn't matter how much space he had now, we were hot on his trail. He wouldn't make it far. "Are you okay?" Everest linked as we went back running, following his scent. I caught him looking at my healing arm, concerned. "Just peachy. A little bloody but still peachy." I laughed through the link. "Are you good?" "Of course I am. Let's get him. Keep your eyes open." He closed the link, opening one to everyone, giving them the same command as he had told me. I looked over as Miranda was riding on the back of Brent. Her eyes were glowing and I realized she was using her magic. She must have been seeking what lied ahead. I hadn't tapped into his mind, but was thankful for her visions. He's still running, but we are slowly gaining on him. He is fast, but not fast enough. We need to try to reach him before he reaches the highway. There is a car waiting for him. It will be able to outrun us. Miranda yelled to us all. "Push harder!" I commanded as we pushed our Lycans harder to try and catch him. He could not get away, not again. He was just like a snake, slithery and sneaky. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.